Thinking about leaving your soul-sucking 9 to 5 job, one of the biggest struggles I see people, especially as women, face is the idea of having that safety net, that enticing perks and benefits, and listening to that head trash of what will people think if I leave. I totally get it, and I've been where you are. That's why I created a free guide to help you if you're thinking about putting in that notice. It's called Unlocking Your Exit Plan. Discover 5 things you need to do before leaving your 9 to 5. This guide is filled with worksheets and steps so you will have hand holding along the way. You can download your copy in the link in the show notes, and again, it's totally free. Now back to today's episode.
You're listening to the Hello CS Dorsey podcast, your one-stop shop for all things motivating while on your entrepreneur journey. Feeling stuck in your business or don't know where to start? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Listen to some of the leading women in today's industry who have been there before to help guide you on your path. Now, here's your host and self-taught web designer, CS Dorsey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Hello CS Dorsey podcast. I have a Dani Paige, who is a launch copywriter for those promoting courses, membership, and digital products. Hi, Dani. How are you doing today?
Hey, Candace. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I'm so happy to have you on. So could you tell everyone a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, gladly. So I am a launch copywriter, as you said. I got into it a few years ago now, kind of just stumbled upon it really, but went all in on copywriting. And I now work with females who are in the launch space. So if they are looking to, promote their course or get into digital products or maybe into a group coaching program, I help them with their copy and I help them promote it.
Awesome. So could you tell everyone a little bit about something about yourself that most people do not know?
Yeah, okay. That's a fun one. I'll give you like a totally random thing about me, actually. I have like a fear of being late, which is the weirdest thing. And I get like super anxious if I think I'm going to be like 2 minutes late for something. It's terrible.
No, it's not. I'm like that too.
Yeah?
I am. Like, I freak out if me and my mom is late to church and my mom's like, Candace,
Oh,
everybody's
yeah.
always late. I'm like, no, we can't
Oh my
be.
gosh, I know. It's painful for me. It's so funny. I love that you can relate to that.
I can't. I don't like being late for anything. So
Nope.
Trust me, I understand completely.
Love it. Awesome.
Okay, so we're going to dive right in, and I want you to tell us all about your framework.
Yeah. Okay. So I have this framework to help with your copy. So I've called this framework my hockey framework, and you don't need to know anything about hockey to understand this, but I used to play professional hockey. So I have a background playing hockey. And so this was inspired to help other entrepreneurs because it's a proven structure to help you write like all-star emails. I like to call it, just because my competitive side really comes out to play. But yeah, so it's called the hockey framework. I'll jump right in and you can take these tips to help you write better emails, better copy. So the first letter is H. It stands for hero. And that means that you want to make your reader the hero in every message, every story, every email you write. So you want to write in a way that makes them the focal point of your email, not yourself. And this sounds really maybe like straightforward or like common sense, but it's really easy to not do this, I guess. I'll give you an example of what I mean. So if I were writing about this podcast, for example, I wouldn't want to say I'm sharing my hockey framework because that's really about me. I would flip it and say, you'll learn the hockey framework. Okay, so that like little adjustment really makes your writing more about the reader and less about, yourself as the writer. And, that's what people are ultimately interested in, is just hearing about themselves, right? So when you make it more about them, they'll be more connected to your email. Then the O stands for observe. And that means you want to observe your audience so you know exactly who you're speaking to. So when when you know what they're thinking or what they're saying or what they're struggling with, you can be that much more specific in your copy and it will just resonate a lot more with them. I'll give you an example here too about, how observing your audience can make your copy better. So let's say instead of writing like, and I'm not a business coach, this is just an example here, but instead of writing like, I'm a business coach and I'll help you start an online business. Okay, that's like pretty generic. When you know exactly who you're speaking to, you could write, I'll help you start an online business so you can leave your 9-to-5 job and show your kids what it's like to follow their dream. Okay, so you can see like how much more specific that is. And I could write like that when I know that much more about them. Okay, so here's like a tangible tip, I guess, how to figure that stuff out. So you think like, how am I going to observe? It all has to do with research. Okay, so the best way to perform this research is through interviews. If you can get on like a one-on-one, have a conversation with them. If you want to jump into even Facebook groups and ask around, that's research. Or, post like an engagement post on Instagram, people who are following you get those responses, and that's research too, and you'll understand a little bit more about them too. So that is observing your audience. So then we're on to the C for hockey, and that stands for connection. So copy that connects is ultimately copy that sells. People buy from people, not like a corporate faceless brand. Like think about McDonald's, even, for example. They have Ronald as the face of the company, right? And that's because they're trying to connect with people. Okay, so you can put this tip into action to, like, I'll show you how to put this into action. It's really simple. Just sharing who you are, like getting really vulnerable. You can discuss things in your email other than business too. Like, throw in a line about pop culture or what TV show you're watching, that sort of thing. It really helps you connect with your readers too. All right, we're on to the K, and that stands for knowledgeable. And this means showing up as the expert, really. Just showing that you've got this knowledge and give proof of why people should trust you. So how you can do that is by testimonials and success stories. All that sort of stuff is great for in your emails. And if maybe you don't have that right now, which is totally fine. If you have, like share your origin story, that's a great way to explain your transformation story. If you've kind of had that transformation for yourself, then you can certainly help others do the same too. So that really helps build up your expert level too. And then we're on to E in our hockey word here. So that stands for empathy. And empathy this means like just making sure your reader is seen and heard and understood. It's proven that the more you can empathize with your reader, the more they can trust you. And trust is just huge in copywriting, right? So the more research you do, kind of like what I mentioned before, the better you can empathize with your reader, because you'll better understand like their pains and their hopes and their dreams and that sort of thing. So if I was to empathize with you, Candace, I could say, I understand, what it's like to be a website designer and to run a business and to start and run a successful podcast. Like, I get it. It's a lot. Like, it's a lot of work, right? And so you can see how I can empathize with you instead of just writing like, Candace, I get that you're busy. Like, there's just no empathy in that whatsoever. So being able to write with more empathy makes your copy that much better too. Okay, and then we're on to our final letter here, and that's Y, and that stands for yes, just simply the word yes. And this refers to getting your reader to start thinking the word yes while they're reading your emails. So when you're writing, you can do this by like throwing in questions or making some sort of statement so the reader actually starts nodding their head in agreement. So if they're saying like yes and nodding their head subconsciously, you've already kind of hooked them in, and it's a great thing because you want them thinking like, yes, I agree, or yes, I can relate to this, or yes, you really understand what I'm thinking, that sort of thing. And this is great for a couple of reasons. So one, getting them to say yes also makes things sound a little bit more conversational. Like, it's not just always you talking. If they feel like they're kind of part of the conversation too. And then two, the more they say yes, they're actually making micro commitments as they read, and they're more likely to say yes at the end when you ask them to click a link or, take an action at the end of one of your emails. So that there is the hockey framework. Maybe I'll give you a quick run through because I blew through that. So H stands for hero, O stands for observe, C is connection, then we've got knowledgeable, empathy, and the last one was yes.
That is awesome. I love it. So my question is, now how can someone do their emails? Is this something that needs to be in one email, or would you recommend like splitting it up into the different emails as far as like the letters, have one email like that to send to their readers? Or
no, not necessarily. It's more like just things that you can think of when you write an email. So, and it might be a lot at once, but it's things that you can just start doing a little bit more every time you write an email. So you can kind of give it a sweep through your email. Maybe you've written it, and then you can come back and think of this framework and be like, okay, hero, am I talking about myself too much in this email? Or do I need to talk more about them? Okay. And you can do that really simple by looking at your words. And if there's a lot of like I, me, those kind of words pointing inward, you can see how you can try to flip it to you and your, and just, kind of make that shift that I said. So again, you can kind of do a sweep and look at, if you're talking about them, then look at, O is the next one, observe. Okay, so am I actually, understanding what they're saying? Am I, hitting their feelings? Empathy? Am I sounding empathetic enough? The last one was yes. You can kind of do that through, am I getting them to say yes in this email? I don't want to be asking a question that's got them maybe saying no, that sort of thing. Like, am I getting them on that train? So it's more kind of like just taking a big general overview of your emails and kind of doing a whole sweep through this framework and seeing if you've nailed each of those aspects.
I love it. I really do, because I'm going to be honest with you, I don't think about none of these.
No? And you know what? It'll be more natural now that you know and you've heard it, it'll be much more natural every time. And you'll get better each time, right? It's all about practicing and knowing it for one, and then just starting to implement this stuff slowly as you go forward.
Oh, I love it. So I have a question. When did all of this come to you? Like this, and I know you mentioned you like, sports, hockey and everything, but when it actually like hit you that I need to use these different letters for this framework, like?
Yeah, I love that question. I wanted to make something that was really branded to myself. So I definitely wanted to bring that whole, like, my athletic and professional sports background into what I'm teaching. And it just kind of over time, like, I didn't know if it was going to be the word sports or hockey or competitive, because that's a big thing. I'm very competitive. So I didn't know for sure what word it was going to be, but I kind of just started working with the letters that I really wanted to have in the framework. And it was kind of just a fun jigsaw puzzle that I'm like, oh, okay, I could kind of see this word come together. And it just kind of evolved into the hockey framework.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. I mean, I'm blown away. That is awesome. So what advice would you give yourself 10 years ago?
Ooh, in regards to like starting my business?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. That's fun. Let's see, 10 years ago. So I think I would tell myself not to be so hard on myself. And like, I was always kind of pushing myself what my next career step was going to be. And I like brainstormed for a while. I'm like, how do I not know this yet? And I was in a corporate job 9 to 5, and I just wasn't happy. So I really was trying very hard to get out, which, is understandable. But I would probably just tell myself, I'm a big believer that everything happens for a reason. So, and at the end of the day, this whole copywriting thing just I ended up stumbling upon it anyways. So yeah, I think I would just tell myself not to push, like it's going to happen. Everything happens for a reason, that sort of thing.
I love that because oftentimes, especially when we're somewhere we don't want to be, or especially 9 to 5, I'm still in my 9 to 5 and I'm still trying to figure out how to get out of there uh, till this
And that's
day.
totally fair. Yep. And there you go. I mean, it'll happen. That's what I
Yeah,
truly, truly believe. It'll happen when the time is right.
that's right. That's right. Just being patient is key. And I know it's hard, and I am not a patient person at all. You can ask anybody. But over as time progressed, I have learned that, it's best to just wait, continue, work at it. But success doesn't happen overnight. It's good to, it's good to let things work itself out at a slower pace, because guess what? It's going to last longer. So
Exactly. If you don't rush into it, you can, build that structure up a little bit better and then make the leap when things are a little, when you're a little bit more ready for sure.
yeah, yeah. So, question, and this is completely off
Okay.
the cuff. So, as far as launches, like helping copywriters, helping entrepreneurs with launches, have you ever done a launch for your own self? And was that like the beginning of it? Like doing the copywriting and saying to yourself, oh, this is something that I can definitely show other people because I'm doing this particular launch myself? Or have that happened to you?
Yeah. So I love that you've asked this because it's actually the exact opposite of how it worked for me. I started copywriting and it kind of was very attracted to, I started doing sales pages for clients, and that's kind of how I got into launches and kind of built up just my knowledge base and started doing launches for other clients. And I was doing these big launches for them for years, really. And then I kind of am taking a step back, and this is very recent, that I'm like, I need to do this for myself. Like, I'm having these huge, like, 60K, 6-figure launches, some of them. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should try to start doing this for myself. So that's kind of where I am now, that I'm actually just about to launch my first digital product in the next couple of weeks. So yeah, it was a little bit reversal for me. I started learning and just kind of picked it up with clients and grew that way. And now I'm starting to implement it for myself.
That's awesome. See what difference does it make? Because it's like I asked that question because I'm like, I wonder if she's done her own launch and then kind of like switched, kind of like pivot a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that you actually did it first, helping with clients and reaching to getting them to that goal, or that mark that they wanted to reach, and now that you know how it work, and so it's like, okay, I'm gonna try it myself.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I've got these launches under my belt, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's try for myself.
That's amazing. That's really good. So any last minute advice that you have for our listeners out there?
Yeah. I have last minute advice in regards to just writing their own copy. Is that what you
Yes.
mean? Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, copy is can be a tricky thing, or not tricky, but intimidating, I think,
Hmm.
because, you might not think you're great at copy, which is totally fair. And the thing with copy, though, it's so important for your business. You can certainly hire it out by all means, but there's probably still going to be some copy that you need to do, because it's just absolutely everywhere. Like, copy writing on your website, sending emails, a Facebook post or a blog post, like anything like that, you're always going to need copy. So my advice is really simply just to I guess not hide from it and just get started. Just practicing, really. Like, it seems like very plain Jane advice, but just start practicing. Journaling even really helps, and reading really helps for writing better copy too.
That's really good advice, because I had stopped reading for a while, and I've noticed that when I don't read on a consistent basis, like read books, I've noticed that, my vocabulary and my writing has kind of like went
Mm-hmm.
downhill, because I've written like about 5 books. And during that time, I was like big on reading a lot, and I was like soaking it all up, all in. I was really good with emails. Like, my manager at the time, I had transitioned to another department, and she saw how well I wrote emails. And she was like, I have a special project for you to do because I like the way that you write. I was like, okay. But now ask me to write an email. It's
No
bye.
go.
I need this. Bye.
Right. And that's just it. It's totally practice. Reading really does help because, you can start pulling things out like, that was a cool way someone phrased something, and just kind of even subconsciously, this stuff really makes an impact in your writing.
That's true. That is so true. So where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so you can come find me at my website is danipage.com danipage.com. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'd love to offer up this freebie that you and I were chatting about before. That's why I'm so excited about it. It's a freebie called Expert Insights, and I was lucky enough to chat with and I guess kind of interview a few top females in our industry. So people like Jasmine Starr, Melissa Griffin, Jill Stanton are all in this guide, and they've kind of given us all their launch insights, like all the stuff that behind the scenes stuff that we all want to know but can't get our hands on. So I've put together this guide for your listeners. So if they're interested at all in doing any sort of launches, they can certainly pick up this guide. And that is at danipage.com/expert-insights.
And we're going to include everything that you mentioned, all the links, everything in the show notes, as well on the social medias as well. Thank you so much for coming on. This is so exciting. I learned so much, I'm telling you, because I'm one of the ones that's shying away from writing copy. I mean, I can be good at it, but I'm like, oh.
You can do it. I promise you can do it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Candace. That was a lot of fun.
We hope you enjoyed the show today. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episodes and more. Head over to hellocsdorsey.com to subscribe. And remember, nothing is impossible. So make the impossible possible and take action today. We'll see you next time.